Hey guys, this is Dan with Gears and Gadgets. Thanks for tuning in. This video is not a normal setup that I have here in the studio, but that's because it doesn't really matter. I'm going to throw myself down in the corner of the screen because I want to edit this video basically in real time. I'm just going to screen record what I'm editing and that will be my video. I was at an event about 2 months ago in Las Vegas, and there was a scenario where I captured a motorcycle crash on camera. It's something that's just stuck with me, and I decided that I think it's worthy of sharing simply because I feel like I have some sort of responsibility of just being a part of this entire group ride gone wrong. Now, a lot of people might opt to not share this kind of content, but I'm really not out here to impress anybody. I'm just kind of out here to share a situation that I was in, and if somebody can learn from it, I feel like that makes it worth sharing, and that's kind of what this is all about. I'm just trying to present the entire scenario as it unfolded and just kind of, I guess, show people how quickly things can go from fun to sketchy to dangerous. So let's just get into it. Again, this was an event that I was at for, Rock motorcycle helmets. Now, I guess I thought this group ride was going to be more of like a Harley-Davidson demo days where they have a road captain in the front and the rear, and the route is relatively scouted and they work to kind of keep everybody together. I thought it was going to be a little more organized. It was not. And I don't know if I was part of the sanctioned group ride or if I was just part of a rogue group ride. But what had happened was I was inside the event, I'm running around filming, and all of a sudden I just start to hear bikes start up in the parking lot. I looked at my watch and I'm like, oh, it's group ride time. And it was that time. So I kind of went out to my bike, tossed the helmet on. I already had the camera gear set up, ready to go. And as soon as the bike started rolling, I started rolling. Now, I didn't start the camera until I was actually out of the parking lot and down the road a little bit. That was my fault, and I wish I had, because right when I pulled out of the parking lot, everybody just gunned it, which was fine. But I will say that the back tire on my bike got a little bit squirrely, and that doesn't really happen to me frequently here in Phoenix. What I noticed riding around in Vegas on a bunch of different roads was that for some reason the blacktop seemed a little bit slicker than what I'm used to here in Phoenix. And I don't know if it was because it was cooler outside or if it's a different kind of pavement or what. But I did notice even coming up to stoplights and things like that, the brakes would want to lock up a little bit more than they normally do. But you'll see here, I turned the camera on, and this is the GoPro Max 360 camera. I'm just trying to test out the helmet. I'm getting my bearings straight a little bit. You can see the rider comes around me here. Actually, at this point, everything was totally fine. And all of a sudden, people are blocking traffic, and we're all just kind of going. And at this moment, I'm like, what am I doing? And you have choices. At this point, you can just kind of keep going with it or bow out. I should have bowed out. But this was probably one of the moments of just lapse of judgment that normally I would just bow out, and I just kind of said, fuck it, let's go. And that was really a bad idea. But again, it was just kind of at the moment I was just decided like, hey, this is who I am now. And we were all riding like a bunch of jackasses, so let's go. The other part of this was I'm not familiar with the area, which is a reason why you should drop out for sure. But for me, it's like I got to keep up with these guys because I don't really know where I'm at. And this comes down to the point of why it should have been kind of like a road captain scenario, because people came from all over the place. This isn't like we're all just hooning around our local town and we all know what's going on. A significant portion of us were from somewhere else. So what you have is just a whole bunch of people trying to keep up with each other, because pretty much I would say 80% of this group is just lost. From the second we left that parking lot, the majority of the group is lost. So it only takes one person to ride like an idiot for everybody else to kind of jump on with that. So you can see here, we're all just kind of taking over the whole highway. This is fine. I really have no issue with this. And then you can see, this is, again, another moment where I'm like, I couldn't really, nobody was in like group formation. we kind of were like scattered all over the highway here, and then I got some guy come up on the side of me, and I'm not sure where I'm supposed to be. It just, everything started to feel real, just disorienting. You know, again, this is just something that when you don't group ride a lot, and some of these guys who are, I guess maybe a little more used to riding like this are, you know, probably gonna say it's not a big deal, but again, you're riding amongst a bunch of other people who don't ride like this, me included. And, you know, I'm trying to figure out my road position. I can just hear like MC Ryder or like Dan the fireman talking about like road strategy. This was like, there was none. And now I'm passing this guy because I don't really know what position he's in because he's kind of dropping back. I don't know. It was all over the place. But again, this got to be another point where I didn't know what to do in this ride. And honestly, the only answer should have been just forget about it. At the end of the ride, I was talking to this dude, and he was hanging back quite a bit. And his whole point was like, hey, in these group rides, I just like to kind of sit back and watch. And honestly, probably the smartest person out of this whole group. But he was letting that tractor trailer in. I couldn't let the group go because I don't know where I am. So I'm like, I got to get around that tractor trailer. And then we stop here. There's a couple lights. And then right up here is where things got bad. So this rider here is the rider that ends up going down. And again, I thought about this before I get into this incident. She was okay, and that's the only reason why I'm even willing to make this video is because nobody got seriously hurt. She was scraped up a little bit, but as you see here, we are hitting a divided highway, and I knew at some point we were hitting the highway, the interstate. And I can start to see now where I'm in my position. I'm behind these two other bikes, and everybody else, they are gone. If you look, like, they are way gone. He is gone. And now the issue with this is she was on a Yamaha. Yeah, it was a Yamaha V-Star that she was on. And as she told me, she's like, I just couldn't keep up with the group. So what I see up in front of me here, which you can't even see on camera, is I see everybody heading off to the right lane, which is telling me that they're about to get on a highway interchange somewhere that I've never seen before. And I kind of looked at her as like she was in my way. So I thought she was getting out of my way here. So I gun it. I'll leave the speedometer out of it, but I gun it and blow by her. And now I'm trying to just catch up and get in front of her because I think she's dropping out. I do know that she was not from the area. I was not from the area. So right off the bat, you're already kind of at a disadvantage of comfort. And then something like this happens where, you know, we're just trying to keep up. She can barely keep up. I gun it to try to catch up to these guys. And it's just uncontrolled. Now, I see this light change, and I'm taking it because it's still yellow. I mean, as I'm underneath it, it's still yellow. So I'm fine. I get through this light. That light's changing, so she's trying to stop for it, which is very strange because, again, this comes down to the slippery pavement aspect of what I said. I thought that the pavement there seemed to be a little more slick just everywhere in general. But as you can see, the guy in the sport bike behind, he's kind of with her. I hit the throttle to take that light. If you look here, he points up at the light just as a courtesy to signal. He signals, hey, the light's changing. She's already slowing down. I think she was intending on stopping anyways, or either just stuck in this weird in-between. I don't know, but what happens next is not good. So her bike just went down. The explanation to me, the way she said it, was that the rear actually locked up and put her into a low side and just kind of dumped her right off the bike. And you can actually see, I don't see it happen because at this point she's kind of far off in the distance, but the bike actually spins. It's not super clear simply because it's far away, so frame by frame And of course, it happens right when he's right there. So I think that as he's pointing, she's assuming, and I think she said she was a newer rider too. So that might have been her thinking he's telling her to stop, when in all reality, I think he's just pointing up to the light. I don't really know. I can't speak for what was going through her head at the moment, but here you can actually see the shiny chrome. The bike spins around, and it's rolling down the highway. I can actually see her pop up here. And again, I didn't see any of this in real time. So what you'll see, I guess the aftermath of that was bike goes down, and then I think she pops up there. Yeah, that's her. She's walking across. So I turn around. By the time I turn around, my camera actually has a little bit better of an angle than I had. Let's zoom out here. By the time I look back, you can see she's already down, but that road had a bit of a crest in it, so I just assumed she had dropped back. But when I don't see her at all, and then I see him look back, as soon as I saw him look back, my gut just sank. It scared the crap out of me, because when I saw him look back, I'm like, that's not good. So I asked him if she's good, and he says she flipped. And I'll tell you what, that the feeling at that moment was it was bad. I mean, it was just a pit in my stomach like I haven't felt probably ever. So he's shaking his head. Yes, she flipped, or went down, not flipped, but yeah, she went down. So now, we got to get over. Now, what's interesting, when this stuff happens, you go into this, at least for me, my only thought at that point in time is like, I need to get back there immediately. And I stopped thinking about anything at all. I thought what I did here was went into a left turn lane. This is head-on traffic. This is actually a left turn lane coming at me. So this is traffic coming at me to cross the road. Here I'm thinking I'm going into a left turn lane. You couldn't really see the paint, but these words, they're upside down. That's for traffic coming at me. So we were both in a bad spot here, that any one of these cars coming at us could have come into this lane. As you can see, there's an arrow right there. And now I'm stuck. I can't do anything. He's already gone. But luckily it was fine. And I just wait for a little spot in traffic here. And I gun it back. So, now I wasn't, at this point, there was no thought in my mind that was, that was caught on video or any of that. It wasn't until I got to probably about right here-ish that I vividly remember, like, oh, I got to turn this camera off because I don't need to be recording. I don't need to be recording. So this is her after the incident. She did get back on the bike, and we just, at that point, it was me, and I'm just kind of leaving people vague here, but the guy in the sport bike, we're like, yeah, let's just kind of get back to the venue with her and make sure that she's good. So when we got to the scene, she had already picked the bike up and pushed it off to the side of the road. That adrenaline spike was gnarly. I could not believe that she had low side of the bike. It spun around, dumped her on the ground. She popped back up. I can understand that, because if you have any wits about you, the first thought is most likely there's cars coming. I got to get out of the road. But the instinct to pick the bike up, push it off to the side of the road in that quick of a time span was pretty impressive. Now, the light was red. Thank God. It gave her an opportunity to have the cars behind her slowing down. And that Yamaha, man, it took it really well. I mean, the bag was scraped up a little bit. There really wasn't a whole lot wrong with the bike. She took it just, I mean, really good. she's like, no, I'm fine. Her leather jacket had gotten ripped up a little bit, and her pants were not even scraped up at all. Not even a little bit. And at this point, I still thought, I assumed she was like a YouTuber or something. This is just when you go to these events, you're just kind of assuming you're amongst other creators. You don't know everybody in the space, so you just kind of assume that everybody is somebody somewhere. She was actually just there as a fan of the brand, basically. Took a trip from California and just having a good time. So that situation, the helmet didn't make contact with the ground. It was just basically her jacket and her pants and the bike. So we got back up, she got back up and we just kind of followed her back to the event. I did drop back because I was trying to just make sure that, like mentally she seemed okay in terms of, just hitting the deck, is certainly got to be pretty frightening. So I was just trying to kind of, I guess, just assess her general riding at that point. Because if it was super sketchy, I would have certainly stepped in and been like, yeah, you're not going anywhere, or riding the bike back to any hotels or anything. And so she made the trip back and was fine. We did get back to the parking lot and looked over the bike pretty quickly. Obviously we weren't going through it with any tools or anything, but I think she said that the rear end was acting a little bit funny. I think she said the bars, like, it wasn't tracking totally straight. So oddly enough, she was actually at the exact same hotel that I was at, and our bikes were parked next to each other. The event went on. She was there for the better part of the entire event. At that point, she was trying to figure out how she was going to get the bike back home because she didn't want to put a lot of miles on it after it had taken that spill, which I don't blame her. Now, the next morning, I was actually packing up the bike because I was heading back to Phoenix, and her bike was still sitting there. I think she said she was going to have it towed back. I think I knew that at that point in time, but either way, I guess the moral of the story is when you end up in these situations, just stop. And that was something that I don't know what part of me, because it's not really like me to just say, yeah, you know what, fuck it, I'm with this. This is who I am. Like, it's not how I ride. I do ride aggressive on my own, but I'm not the kind of person who likes to just hoon it up in a group of riders like that. This is just more me sharing a story for the sake of maybe if you're ever in one of these scenarios that you remember this video and think, maybe I'll just tap out of this one. Maybe I don't need to be in this. And I regret not doing that myself. I could have at any point in time just decided to go on my own ride, tested the helmet out, and I don't know. So I was a little bit disappointed in the group ride aspect of it. I wish it was a little bit more organized, but I also don't, again, like I said earlier, I don't know if it was a sanctioned ride. It was just kind of was what it was. And every one of us in that group was equally as responsible for the safety of one another. And there's probably a bunch of people in that group that would disagree with that. And I don't care. Again, I'm not here to impress anybody. I could care less. But when you get into these groups and you just turn into one giant meathead, basically, you're all responsible for what comes out of that. And I'm not proud of it, but I did want to share it because I do think there's a lesson to be learned out of this kind of riding. And I think there's also a lesson to be learned for brands that are putting together these kinds of things. I don't like the overly litigious contractual nonsense or whatever, but I will say the Harley group rides for the demo days do it pretty well in terms of giving you the ability to stretch the legs of these bikes. They say no slingshotting, but every one of them I've been to, you can fall back and kind of get on the throttle. But at the end of the day, you're all kind of a group. And if one person drops out behind, there's always a road captain at the very back to kind of pick them up and bring them back to where they need to go. And it didn't really happen that way there. So not trying to shed responsibility off of the riders that were there because we're all grown-ups and we can all, take care of ourselves. But there is certainly an aspect of if a brand puts on an event, the brand is also then sort of responsible for the sanctioned things that happen through that event. And that's my take on it. So again, just wanted to share the story with you guys in a very strange way of sharing the edit. And that's kind of a part of my process in, a little bit of a nutshell. It's a little more complex than this, but I thought this was just the easiest way to share the story. So with that being said, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. Ride safe. If this is your first time tuning in, please hit that subscribe button down below. Remember, likes go a long way to help support the channel. I'll see you guys next time.